Gentlemen, let's talk Wonder Woman, but before we do, John chapter 1 says, "In the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The same was in the beginning with God. All things were made by him, and without him nothing was made. In him was life, and the life was the light of men. And the light shined in darkness, and the darkness did not see it." That was the true light, which lights every man that comes into the world. He was in the world was made by him, but the world did not know him. He came to his own, and his own did not receive him. But as many as received him, to them he gave power to become the sons of God, even to them that believed on his name, which were born not of blood, nor of the will of the flesh, nor of the will of man, but of God. And the Word was made flesh and dwelt with us. And we saw his glory, the glory as of the only Son of the Father, full of grace and truth. The word here being spoken about is love. Like I said, everything comes back to love. And love created all things. Love is life. And so every human being that comes into this world that has life is because love instilled that life in them. It was an act of love that we are here. And for all who receive this love, you become sons and daughters of love, because you do as love does. And love was embodied in the flesh of a man who entered into this world, who truly showed love to everyone. And for that, he was killed. He died, but he rose, because love cannot be held down. And all those who receive that love that he gave, therefore receive him. And because you receive him, you too will love and be called a son or daughter of love. And love is everything. And that's what Wonder Woman represents. So here's Gal Gadot. I just thought this was a gorgeous picture of Gal, just in the between takes. And this is Sadir next to her. Excellent actor, and he's in. Both of them are in costume. They're in not in character at this point in time. They're out of character. But I thought this was pretty awesome, so I just decided to share this with you guys. So awesome when actors actually take on and embody a certain fictitious characters and so on. So it's really awesome. Here's another. You've seen this one before. This is they took an old camera to do this photo. So this is literally how a camera in 1918 would take a picture. And you see on the right would be Steve Trevor, in the middle would be Diana, and I don't know who this guy is on the side here, but I'm very excited to know who he is when this movie comes out. So that should be awesome. But I know he's a part of the band that Steve has put together. And here we have some beautiful concept art here. Steve Trevor moving through London, and he's trying to cover up Diana, because he's like, "You're in your underwear, Diana." Remember, this is 1918, so you know, women are underdressed. She looks very much underdressed, and Diana doesn't really make much of it. She's just dressed like that all the time, so she's just walking through the streets, you know. So this is pretty awesome here, and this, you can see, is the concept art of Diana and Steve in London, as it says there. So that's pretty awesome. Now, my video is twofold, so I'm going to get into it really quickly. The first one is, you know, we talked about how much women actually ran the United States of America while the men were off to war in World War II. Well, it shows, this article here shows evidence that women actually did that as well in World War I. And I'll just read little excerpts from the article here. During World War I, 1914 to 1918, large numbers of women were recruited into jobs vacated by men who had gone to fight in the war. New jobs were also created as part of the war effort, for example, in munition factories. There was an initial resistance for hiring women for what was seen as men's work. The introduction of conscription in 1916 made the need for women workers urgent. Around this time, the government began coordinating the employment of women through campaigns and recruitment drives. So they didn't want women to work, and you're going to see why in a minute, okay? All right, so women ended up working in areas of work that were formerly reserved only for men, such as railway guards and ticket collectors, buses and tram conductors, postal workers, police, firefighters, bank tellers, and clerks. Basically, they ran the country. Some women also worked heavy on precision machinery in engineering. They led cart horses on farms. They worked in civil service and factories. However, they received lower wages for doing the same work, and thus began some of the earliest demands for equal pay. This is where feminism basically arose from. It was because these women were doing everything. They were doing everything, and yet they were paid less. In fact, in 1917, in the munition factories, a lot of women got sick from handling some of the explosive powders, which would be TNT, you know, what you use to make dynamite. This powder actually caused their skin to turn yellow, and some women actually died. 400 women died from overexposure to TNT. It wasn't because of explosives. They were very capable in what they were doing in the Canaries. That's what they were called, the places where they did the munitions. And here you see them in the Canaries here. So a lot of women lost their lives also for no reason at all except overexposure to this stuff. They're getting paid less than men. And on top of that, there is no consolidation, no insurance for them, none of these things. So of course the women protested. And so the strike started. Women workers in London buses and trams went on strike in 1918 to demand the same increase in pay, war bonuses as men. The strike spread to other towns in the southeast, this is in the UK, of London Underground. This was the first equal pay strike in the UK, which was initiated and led ultimately and won by women. Okay? So that the War Cabinet in 1917 examined the question of women's wages and released its final report after the war ended. Okay? Now, what they decided to do was, okay, we will give you equal pay, but only for the war. When the men come back, you're going to revert back to whatever you're supposed to get. So that's what the agreement that they came down with. Here are some of the women conductors here. These are the women conductors of the transit, the trains. Okay, you see them there. I don't know if I can zoom in. No, I can't zoom in anymore. So, and you had women also in health. You had them everywhere. They were everywhere, okay? The women who were making chains, man, they were underpaid so ridiculously. They were paid like the minimum wage was 11 shillings a week, and they were paid 6 shillings a week. And we're talking about men, same men who would be doing the same trade. They would be paid, I believe it was 26 shillings a week. So there's a reason why even in the United States of America, they're still talking about, you know, women getting into a lot of jobs because they get paid less usually on a job. So still, from 1914 to the present time, we're talking about almost 100 years, 103 years. Women are still having that battle for equal pay, equal rights, equal respect for the same qualifications. The argument that these people made why women will not be paid, they would be paid at the same rate, but they will not be paid as much, was because they said women are weaker than men, and that they are therefore less capable, they're more susceptible to injury, and therefore they're less capable of doing these jobs. Even though these women were doing 80% of the munitions in war, they were doing them, and also they were more dedicated, they were working more hours, they were the ones really getting it down pack, you know, doing the same jobs. We're talking about these people were driving trains, they were doing the farming, they were the people doing the banking, they were doing everything, and just as good as men, and with the same amount of hours, but they're somehow the weaker sex. This was the argument that they made at that time. And to this day, I think of so much I want to say. So we'll get to that in a minute. But that was in World War I. In World War II, things changed a little bit, but still same old, right? They ran America. And yet this dogma that they were the weaker sex, the weaker gender, so that they don't need to get the same amount of pay, it came up again. And this is why we had the feminist movement. This is why we had women trade unions. Okay? Women got themselves organized. Okay? That's where feminism began. That's where feminism stemmed from. Okay, ladies and gentlemen? So you guys will know. And that's why Wonder Woman is so prevalent and so still so rings so true to this day. The battle is still the same. You look at every facet. You look at research. You look at law. Hillary Clinton was going for president. Look at what they did because she's a woman. I mean, if you look at every single facet of life, women are still to this day. They are still to this day put down, considered lesser than men. We're talking about the same task, the same job, but they are considered lesser than men. Okay? Yes, physically we know women are not, generally speaking, stronger than men of same size and stature. We know this. But that doesn't mean they can't do a better job at certain things. And we're going to get to that because there's a point behind this video. So, the next thing I want to talk about is the women that actually participated in wars. In World War I, women sometimes disguised themselves as men and went into the battlefield and actually fought wars. And some of them were discovered later on. We even had a squad of women that were devastating. They were like, they were involved in all kinds of things. Women were involved as nurses. They were spies. They were secret soldiers. So they were in the war in World War I. So we have all the medics here, and you can go ahead and read this article on the medics. It's also got a YouTube channel. You talk about women who went to war, The Great Adventure. Okay, you can check that out on YouTube. Edith Campbell, she was one of those great World War I medics. She discovered a lot of things and was able to help Allied soldiers escape occupied Belgium and so many other things she did. She was like a covert op. Then you have the secret fighters. And here is one right here. Dorothy Lawrence, okay, she fought in France, okay. She went under the name Dennis Smith. She was discovered eventually, but and her story has been written in a memoir, and that was able to help us understand some other things. We had some other women from other. They put her into a lunatic asylum eventually. It wasn't because she was crazy. I think they tried to shut her up. I'm telling the story. The other person is, we got a whole bunch of them here. This lady here, Flora Sands and Milunka Savic. They were in the Serbian army. Sands became a sergeant major, and Savic became a sergeant. And you can read more about these things. The Forgotten War heroine, Milunka Savic, who did what in World War I. You can go ahead and check out more about that. Okay. Of course, they were also civilians who resisted. Okay. A 78-year-old lady, Madame Marie Therese Faverger Tack. She lived in Belgium, and they were able to resist. She was able to resist by helping troops. They called her the Lady of the Trenches, the Mother of the Soldiers. So she sheltered and fed troops and visited them in the trenches, earning herself nicknames like Lady of the Trenches and Mother of Soldiers. Okay, and they got many, many more. So you can always go and check that out. It's really awesome hearing these stories. All right. And again, this stuff is not necessarily out there in history. I know movie makers should probably make movies on these things because women are the forgotten people in history a lot of times. All right. So Chris Pine. Chris Pine played Steve Trevor in Wonder Woman, and he was not less of a man. He wasn't effeminated or anything like that. He was a man. It was World War I. I loved it. And in doing so, we saw this wonderful story that he is able to paint. But when Chris Pine was interviewed just very recently, Vanity Fair picked this up. Chris Pine said, "Why do we need Wonder Woman? Well, men are not all that smart." And he basically said that he hopes that Wonder Woman will show girls and boys all the many possibilities of what women can do and what women can be. All right. And he was going on to say why he said men are not all that smart, because he said it in a context. Is that we've heard stories told where through the male prism a lot. Men are not all that smart. We tend to want to kill each other all the time. So it's nice to finally have a fresh female perspective with important themes, Pine said. To have a female superhero story that is about love and compassion and nurturing of life than the opposite is very important. At the heart of the movie, it's about people falling in love and being passionate and being heroic. It is a great lesson for everyone to learn instead of other movies where stuff is always blown up all the time. And he's very right about that. And to be honest, when we look at guys like Vladimir Putin, I mean, annexing, not Yugoslavia. What's the place called? Ukraine. He goes and he just takes things from the Ukraine. He's all about violence and war. You know what I mean? When you look at guys like Donald Trump, just bombed Syria recently, and very, very against the media, against intelligence. He's got a healthcare plan that's gonna really just make people worse. It's gonna be a worse healthcare plan than the previous one. I mean, you look at his very inflammatory comments towards allies that he has. His war on terror is what exactly? I don't know. Democracy seems to be falling under him. You look at Kim Jong-un. These are all men, right? He's got this nuclear arsenal, nuclear campaign to do exactly what? Blow up the world? What's up with this dude? You know what I'm saying? We look at Assad. And again, he actually created genocide against his own people, along with Putin and along with Trump. They're bombing the daylights out of Syria and just bombing up people who actually are really decent people there. You know what I mean? Then you got this dude, Mohammed Ahmadinejad. All of these are men. We haven't mentioned a single woman so far. You know what I'm saying? This dude was all about a nuclear program. Right now, they're in Iraq, the Iranian soldiers, and supposedly destroying ISIS there. But they're also killing Christians and other people who don't, want to have a democratic way of thinking. We think of this dude from the Philippines, and what is he doing? His war on drugs is to kill all drug dealers. He is to kill all drug users. Basically, this is an activist here protesting that. He says he holds a banner in front of Philippine National Police headquarters during a protest condemning extrajudicial killings related to President Rodrigo Duterte's campaign against drugs. You don't do that. You don't just assassinate people. You know what I mean? And then we have here, George W. Bush. You remember he was talking about, very charismatically, by the way. All of them are very charismatic people. And he's like, we need to end this war on terror. And Saddam Hussein has weapons of mass destruction. You remember that? That's the speech right there he was giving to the Senate and the Congress. Okay? So they go into their war on terror. And then what do we find out? We find out, oops, they don't have weapons of mass destruction. I mean, come on now. And killed Saddam Hussein, just preemptive strike on a country. Had nothing to do with 9/11. I mean, come on now. Is Chris Pine right or what? Do you talk about General Ludendorff? Okay. Now, for those of you who don't know, General Ludendorff, that's played here in the movie of Wonder Woman, is actually an actual figure in history. This is him on the right here, General Ludendorff. He actually was in World War I. And this guy, he was so angry that the war didn't work well that General Ludendorff actually influenced another very well-known figure, Adolf Hitler. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, Adolf Hitler was influenced by General Ludendorff. And you know what's so embarrassing about this whole thing? They're all men. I mean, think about Theresa May. She is right now the Prime Minister of England. Do you hear her associated with anything that has to do with war? Is she trying to conquer other nations? No. She's just trying to make sure that England, they are able to break from the European Union. She's looking at the economy. Margaret Thatcher. Did you remember anything where she was associated with war? Like she was ready to invade a country and destroy a nation? I don't remember that. You know what I'm saying? I'm thinking about Queen Elizabeth. Do you ever hear about Queen Elizabeth associated with war? I'm just saying. I'm just saying. Does she endorse war? You think about all the women leaders out there. Okay? You think of the German right now Chancellor, Merkel. Do you hear Merkel talking about war? Like, you know, I'm just saying. Now, let's put this in context. Hillary Clinton. You think, you know, guys, just think. You know, he's saying, oh, it's a woman. Oh, she's so corrupt. Blah, 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 blah. So we get this blue-eyed, blonde-haired, 50-something plus man. And he will take charge. He's got courage. Yeah, How's that going for you? Yeah? It's going good, huh? Yeah. This is the kind of mentality that feminism is fighting against. So far, in my opinion, women are doing a much better job than men in managing countries that I just spoke about. Okay? The men seem to have been tyrants. I'm not saying all men were like that. Bill Clinton didn't seem to be that way. Barack Obama didn't seem to be that way. The last Prime Minister of England didn't seem to be that way, even though he wasn't able to really make some very solid decisions. He wasn't killing people, like Chris Pine was saying. Men tend to want to kill, right? Too much testosterone, maybe. That's what makes us not so smart, right? We want to impose our will on people instead of trying to negotiate and work things out and see how everybody can work together, right? So all I'm saying is when you look at that, that's the thing that I see all the time. Of course, there are a lot of men who are leaders who are very diplomatic and so on. But I truly suggest, if you really want to make good decision making, you need to have women also in those influential positions to give a balanced opinion, a different perspective on things, less violent one. I think about how the Attorney General, the former Attorney General of the United States of America, I think of also the head of the Department of Justice of the United States of America, gave sound judgment. They were fired, but they gave sound judgment. Again, both of them were women. You just think about how many women in key positions actually did something that made sense. Okay? And then think about the men and how they conducted themselves. Even first ladies. You think about the first ladies, generally of the presidents of the United States. All of them, including Donald Trump's wife, have been very selective about how they approach things, how they speak to the media. All of them. It is the men who continuously let us down. I'm not saying all the men. I mean, Bill Clinton let us down in terms of a scandal, but and Barack Obama, how did he let us down? He let us down. He didn't really let us down. He actually did his thing, but then again, I may be biased towards him. I don't know. But if you look at most of the women, you look at their roles, they always held their roles well. You can't say nothing against none of the women, except that maybe they may have participated a lot in the political process, but you can't really say much about it. You can't say anything about Donald Trump's wife that's negative. You can't. She's conducted herself above board from the get-go. Okay? She may have made a blooper, she apologized. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, it's the men letting us down continuously, right? Because they're in key positions and they're straddling those key positions. We don't have women in there to give a fresh perspective. And a country truly grows when it is ready to embrace women as leaders. And you know, a lot of these men, they have a thinking and a reasoning that is so backward. They think, oh, if women get the reins of power, they will hold on to it forever. Because they think women think like them. You know what I'm saying? So it's one of those retarded things. If you look at the dictators in the world, I mean through history, name one that was a woman. We've had women who were, dictators who wanted to conquer nations and kill people and stuff. Not one was a woman. Please name one. If you have a good sense of history, please name one. Okay? This is my point. So my point is, I don't think it's a problem to have women as leaders in the world. I think it would be a blessing. I, of course, believe there should be a balance because I believe men and women bring different things to the table. But quite frankly, feminism here truly applies again. It truly applies. A balance, a level playing field. That's what feminism pushes for. They try to make it sound negative. No, all women are asking for, just like minorities, is a level playing field. That's what feminism is all about. That's all it is. Let's play fair. Let's not just pay someone more than another person because of their gender. Let's not just, look at someone and think they're nobody, even though they're qualified just as well as another person because of their gender. Let's not just address people socially in an environment and ignore other people because of their gender. Okay? Let's not just try to debar someone from doing something. They have to have a male with them to go into certain places because they're single because of their gender. You see what I'm saying? It's not fair. It ain't fair. It is not right. Don't tell people how to dress and how to conduct themselves in a society where they're doing the right thing, they're doing the good thing, but you're going to eliminate them because, oh, you're not dressed a certain way. Oh, you didn't conduct yourself a certain way. Even though they're doing the right thing because of their gender. This is what feminism is about. It is not feminism is not trying to propose something negative to people. It is not trying to say, oh, we're villains, so we should be treated like other villains, or we should be incarcerated like. By the way, who are the majority of people? Again, this can be a little bit unfair. So I'm gonna set the record straight. This is a little bit unfair with minorities. Sometimes men go into jail for things that they did not do, but because they are a male and they're profiled a certain way, they're in prison. Okay, fair enough. Again, we just want a level playing field. But how many women actually go to prison compared to men? Is it the same rate? Okay, so if women are better socialized and they don't go into prison as much as men, what does that really say about women? It means that in the social structure, they're more likely to follow the social structure than men are. Okay? Now, there's something wrong still with men going to prison more than women, in the sense that it means something is wrong in society. Men should not be going to prison that much. So something's wrong with our society, which is led by men, by the way. So I'm just saying. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, your boy always try to bring something to the table that would really inform you guys. On that note, you guys have a blessed one. You guys have a great one.